Hello everyone, welcome back to Comment Made Easy, and I hope you all are doing very well. Before we begin, let me remind my dear students that the contents of this channel are only to supplement your knowledge, not to replace the regular online and offline classes in your institution. So please attend your classes and do not miss them. Also, if you like our contents, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the videos and share these videos with your friends, with your batchmates, with your juniors. Also, if you are a teacher, then with your students. Please follow our Facebook page and the link will be given in the description. In part 1 and part 2, we discussed the steps and uses of descriptive epidemiological studies and then the time, place and percent distribution of descriptive studies. In part 3 today, we shall discuss some of the types of descriptive studies. For example, case report, case series, ecological studies and cross-sectional studies. The first one, the case report, where we present a single case in details. Okay, so we generally look for a new disease or maybe a disease which is unfamiliar to us. Alright, for example, mucormycosis have been existing for decades, many decades, and we have identified the disease long back. But in recent months, especially before the onset of the second wave of COVID-19, we found out that lot of mucormycosis cases are being reported among the COVID patients. So, if we select one COVID patient with mucormycosis, that will be a new feature, right? So, rare manifestations of a disease can also be described under case report. It helps to generate hypotheses regarding pathophysiological mechanisms. So, that means we find a new disease or a disease that is not familiar to us and then study it. So, we take a single case of that disease and from that we can have a little bit of idea about the pathophysiology of that disease. This is case report. Coming to case series, where we take larger group of patients, for example about 10 cases or more than 10 cases of a single disease. So, as you can see in case report we find a single case, but in case series we take more than 10 cases like 15 case, 20 case, but all these cases are from a single disease. So, large number may allow the investigator to assess the play of chance. So, if I take a single case and get the sign and symptoms from that disease, it may occur only because of chance, right? But if I take 10 cases and find out that almost all of those patients are showing similar signs and symptoms, that means the presence of signs and symptoms of in all the cases of that disease are not by chance. So, that means it is obvious that these signs and symptoms are present in that disease. Common way of delineating the clinical pictures of a disease, same thing. So, that means if we study multiple cases of a single disease and find out that they are showing some common signs and symptoms, so that means those signs and symptoms are present in that disease. But like any other descriptive epidemiological studies, this one also does not have any comparison group. So, that is a disadvantage of case series or rather any descriptive study. Next one is ecological studies, also known as correlational studies. This is a very commonly asked short note. Here the unit of analysis is group or population. Alright, I will explain this very soon. So, that means all the informations that we gather are from a group or population. Individual level informations are not present. So, whether the disease is occurring in one person or whether the risk factor or exposure is occurring in a person, that information is not available in ecological studies. We only have data or information about the whole group or whole population. Alright. It relates whether populations with high rates of disease also have high frequency of suspected exposure. Let me give you an example. So, this is a graph where the x-axis denotes the mean salt intake and y-axis denotes the prevalence of hypertension. We have 6 different villages, village A, B, C, D, E and F. So, 6 different villages. Now, suppose I have visited the village A Say in the village there are 100 people living. So I will ask them individually about their amount of salt intake on daily basis. I will add the values and divide by the number of people, that is 100. So that will give me the mean or average salt intake on daily basis for that village. Also in the same village I will measure blood pressure for all the people, and from that I can find out how many of them are hypertensive. So prevalence of hypertension can be found out. So just like that I can plot the prevalence of hypertension against daily average or mean salt intake for individual villages. So from this graph we can say that with increase in average or mean salt intake, the prevalence of hypertension also increases. So village F, it has the highest salt intake, also the highest prevalence of hypertension, whereas in village A there is minimum or the least mean salt intake, somewhere around say 4 gram per day, and also the prevalence of hypertension is very low here, somewhere around 2.5%. Okay. So this is ecological studies. So what are the advantages? We can generate hypothesis for case control studies and environmental studies. In future we shall discuss case control studies and other analytical studies, but for the time being, just looking at this graph we can have some idea that people who are having hypertension, that means rather it is better to say those population with high prevalence of hypertension also have high mean salt intake, right. So this will give us some idea that maybe excess of salt intake can cause hypertension, right. We can target high risk population, time periods or geographical regions for future studies. In this example we can say that village F, village E, village D, all these villages have population with higher prevalence of hypertension as compared to this village A, B and C. So of course these people or this population are at higher risk. So high risk population cannot be found out from ecological studies. What are the disadvantage? The disadvantage is ecological bias, or also known as ecological fallacy. Now in this village, suppose in village F, we can see that the mean salt intake is very high and so is the prevalence of hypertension. But since the data is available at group level or population level but not at individual level, we cannot say for sure whether people who are consuming high amount of salt are actually those people who are having hypertension, right. Maybe, just maybe, those people who are consuming very low amount of salt are hypertensive, whereas people with high amount of salt intake are normotensive, that means normal blood pressure. So this is another possibility, right. So since individual level data are not available, so that is why we cannot know for sure whether people who have the exposure, that is high salt intake, actually have the disease, that means hypertension. So this is known as ecological bias or ecological fallacy. Coming to the next type of study, that is cross-sectional survey. It means the observation of a cross-section of a population at a single point of time. That means looking at the population at a single point of time and gathering all the informations that we need. The unit of observation and analysis is the individual of that population. If you remember, in ecological studies, the unit was the population or group as a whole, but here the unit is the individual of that population or group. We collect information about the disease burden because we look for the prevalence of the disease, and also this is known as prevalence studies, because when we look at a certain point of time, we find out all the existing cases or prevalent cases in that population. So existing cases means either old cases or new cases. So that is why, since prevalent cases are found in cross-sectional surveys, this is known as prevalence studies. So We can take the population, the whole population, if it is possible, to include in our study and look at them at a certain point of time for all the informations, or if the population is very big, we take a representative sample from the population. This population and the population sample have already been discussed in previous videos, and it should be clear by now. The concept should be clear. Observation for the presence of one or more outcomes or one or more exposures. For example, if I go to a village and suppose I measure the blood pressure of all the people, from that I can find out how many of them are hypertensive. So, prevalence of hypertension can be assessed, which is an outcome of disease. Also, I can take their blood sample and look for their blood sugar level, and from that I can have the idea about the prevalence of diabetes in the same population. So, more than one outcome like hypertension, diabetes can be observed in cross-sectional surveys. Also, one or more exposures can be observed. Same example, if I ask them about their salt intake pattern, how much salt they take on daily basis, from that also I can have an idea how many of them or what proportion of people are consuming salt more than the recommended level, right? Or I can also ask them about their physical activity, how many of them lead a life that is sedentary, or how many of them have adequate physical activity throughout the day. We can also ask them about their smoking history, alcohol intake history, or maybe about their diet, like if they are consuming lot of calorie in their diet. So, all these exposures can be observed in cross-sectional surveys. So, what are the uses of cross-sectional surveys? We can estimate the prevalence of a disease or their risk factors. So, I already mentioned just looking at the outcomes we can estimate the prevalence of hypertension, diabetes, etc. And also different exposures, the proportions can be found out. So, the risk factors can also be estimated. Distribution of health problem by time, place, person, distribution. So, this time, place and person distribution of diseases have already been discussed in part 2. Plan healthcare services delivery and set priorities for disease control. So, suppose after conducting a cross-sectional survey, I found out that in a particular village there is high prevalence of hypertension. So, that means we have to set our priority for control of hypertension in that particular village, and for that we have to plan our healthcare delivery service or service delivery accordingly. So, we should provide them with anti-hypertensive medications and also go for necessary investigations. So, this investigation facilities should be available in that community. We can also give them some health educations, especially in regards to diet, like excess salt intake should be avoided, excess of calorie intake should be avoided, physical activity is recommended so as to avoid obesity. So, all these things, and avoidance of smoking, avoidance of alcohol, all this health education can also be provided to the community. Last one is to generate hypothesis. We already know that descriptive epidemiology is for generating hypothesis, which can be further tested and confirmed by analytical studies or experimental designs, whichever is applicable. So, these are the uses of cross-sectional surveys. What are the advantages? Since we are looking at the population only at a point of time, and we are having all the estimates then and there. So, this is very quick, easy to perform and quite inexpensive. So, this is not costly at all. So, these are the advantages. What are the limitations or disadvantages? Exposure and outcome examined at the same time. For example, obesity and diabetes. Let me explain. Suppose I look at a village, or rather I go to a village, conduct a cross-sectional survey, and I found out that there are a lot of obese people and also they have diabetes, right? So, since I am looking at a cross section of the population and looking at the population only at one point of time, I am not following up this population in future. So, what I am saying is there are some of the people are obese and they have diabetes. It does not say whether the obesity occurred first and then the diabetes developed, or whether the diabetes occurred first and then the obesity developed. So whether the exposure or cause occurred first and then the disease occurred, this cannot be confirmed from cross-sectional surveys, because in cross-sectional survey we look at the cause and also at the effect, that is the exposure and the disease at the same time. So when I visited the village, those people were already obese and already diabetic. And since whether exposure occurred first and then the disease occurred cannot be ascertained from cross-sectional survey, that becomes the biggest limitation of cross-sectional survey or any descriptive study, right? Also, this is not useful to study the disease etiology, because to confirm the disease etiology or causation of the disease, we must show or demonstrate that the cause or exposure occurs first and then the disease developed, right? But in cross-sectional survey, since we are looking at the population only once, and we find out that the cause or exposure has already occurred and also disease has already developed, we cannot know for sure which one occurred first. That means whether the exposure occurred first then the disease developed, or whether the disease developed first then the exposure occurred. This cannot be ascertained, and that is why these cross-sectional surveys are not useful to study disease etiology or causation of disease. Also, it is not suitable for the study of rare diseases, because if the prevalence of disease is very low, say 0.1%, so that means out of 1000 people there will be only one case, right? Suppose my sample size is about 100, so if I have 1000 people, there I shall have one case. If I have 100 people, I may or may not even have a single case of that disease. So that is why if the disease is very rare, that means prevalence is very low, if I take a sample, I may miss any case. So that is why it is not suitable for diseases which are very rare. So these are all about the advantages and limitations of descriptive studies. With this, we conclude the descriptive epidemiology. Please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and also share this video with your batchmates, with your juniors, and also friends from other colleges. We also have our Facebook page. The link is given in the description. You can follow that. Take care, and we shall see you in your next video.